Curt Cignetti, you did a remarkable job. You are the coach of the year in college football for 2024. And you're also fun to watch, fun to cover, fun to listen to. You're awkward, you're quirky, you're bold, you're brash. You brought swag to Indiana. But you went a little too far and said some ridiculous things that we got to call you out for. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by for the best in discussion, debate, and analysis. All right, Curt Cignetti appearing on College Game Day just hours prior to his Indiana football team being embarrassed by Notre Dame. Final score 27-17. Obviously, the final score does not indicate how Notre Dame dominated the game. Well, Curt Cignetti said this to the Game Day crew. Sitting on the Game Day set to the right of former boss Nick Saban, Cignetti said, quote, "Look, there's a lot of skeptics. There are a lot of doubters, right? Haven't beat a top 25 team. Nebraska was, underline was, 25th in the coaches poll. We beat their ass 56-7. I haven't beaten a top 25 team. Coastal Carolina, back when we were little James Madison moving up to the Sun Belt, they were 22nd that year. We beat them 47-7. We don't just beat top 25 teams, we beat the shit out of them." That statement was pretty pathetic. It's not like this guy has a 20-year history of defeating ranked teams, number one. Number two, it's one thing to be ranked at kickoff. It's another thing to prove to be a ranked team. Nebraska, a ranked team, that's a joke. They went 6-6. They beat basically no one of significance. Nebraska was not a good football team this year. They were a marginal football team, not 25 worthy by any stretch of the imagination. Yes, your Indiana team took care of Nebraska in dominating fashion. That was impressive, but to call Nebraska a ranked team is a joke. And then let's take that to the group of five level. Let's understand that there is a wide chasm between the Power Five and the Group of Five. And to beat a ranked Group of Five team, again, 22nd in the nation at Coastal Carolina, yes, the performance at James Madison on that particular day against Coastal Carolina in winning by 40 points is mighty impressive. And the job that you did, Curt Cignetti at JMU, remarkable. We started to pay attention to James Madison football, elevating from the FCS into the Group of Five, into the Sun Belt, and churning out those impressive teams. An undefeated team 2 seasons ago. Mighty impressive, Curt Cignetti. Yes. But throwing out your resume and defeating ranked teams was a joke. I just outlined it for you. It's not worth mentioning. Oh, and by the way, lest we forget, Curt Cignetti in Indiana's last legitimate and only legitimate game against a top 25 team. What happened then? Oh yeah, Ohio State 38, Indiana 15. Game not competitive in the second half. Curt Cignetti failed to bring up that particular contest. With 10 minutes left in the game in South Bend, Indiana was down 20-3. It did not look good. However, they were down by 17 points. There was still a possible comeback in them. We see it all the time in college football. Likely? No. Possible? Yes. But it's generally impossible to score without the football. Generally, of course, there are defensive scores that are possible, but you basically have to possess the football to score and put points on the board. And down by 17 points with 10 minutes left in the game, faced with a 4th and 11, what did Curt Cignetti do? He punted the football. Sean McDonough doing the game along with Greg McElroy, they both threw up their hands and said, "This makes no sense. What is he doing? You cannot win the football game like this." Also consider the field position. Indiana was at midfield when Cignetti made this decision to punt. It made absolutely no sense unless Curt Cignetti was letting us know, you know what? I know we've lost this football game. I don't want to get embarrassed. So it's a loser's mentality with all the brashness, all the vibrato of Curt Cignetti. What he was telling us there is that I am not going for the win, but I don't want to look bad. I don't want me and my team to be embarrassed on the scoreboard. Therefore, we're going to keep it kind of close, kind of under control at 20-3. We don't want to give up another touchdown and look bad. That's a loser's mentality. And when confronted with that very situation after the game, this is what Cignetti had to say. Quote, "I didn't want to punt." Then why did you punt? You've got the decision in your hands. You're the head coach. But I didn't want to go for 4th and 10. It's like you're wishing and hoping. You have nothing to base it on that you can convert 4th and 10 at that point. And there's still time to punt if you win the game. So that was the reason why. I didn't want to do it, but I felt like it was the best move. So Cignetti not only has a loser's mentality, but his statement defending that decision was completely irrational. At first, he says it's all about wishing and hoping, which lets us know that he thought his team had no chance of coming back to win. Then in the next statement, he says there's still time to punt if you win the game, meaning that he thinks that that was the tactical right move strategically to try to win the game, but he had no hope that his offense could convert a 4th down play. Curt Cignetti, you do understand that your team was going to have to score multiple times to win the game. Therefore, you had to place it in the hands of your offense, and therefore they would have had to prove that they could march the ball down the field. That was the only way you're going to win the game, is to have your offense start to move down the field and score points. Therefore, the punt logic is completely ridiculous. And based on what were clearly Curt Cignetti's goals with 10 minutes left in this game, down 20-3, he actually accomplished what he set out to do. His team did not get embarrassed on the scoreboard. Final score, Notre Dame 27, Indiana 17, as the Hoosiers scored with about 1 minute left to play, got the 2-point conversion, got the ball back on an onside kick, and then scored with about 20 seconds left in the game to make it respectable on the scoreboard, 27-17. Had they been able to convert the 4th and 10, score at that point, then maybe they would have actually had a legitimate shot to win the game later and not just make it look good in the record book. So Curt Cignetti, by punting on 4th and 10 with 10 minutes left in the game, you did not give your team a chance to win the game. However, you accomplished your goal of not getting embarrassed because you scored 14 garbage points in the final 90 seconds to make it look good in the history books. So 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when people look back at the very first game in the 12-team college football playoff and see Notre Dame 27, Indiana 17, they will think, oh, Indiana, well, they've never made it back to a college football playoff, but they acquitted themselves rather well. And they only lost by 10 points on the road to Notre Dame. Nice job, Curt Cignetti. You didn't get embarrassed. Not technically. Was Indiana one of the 12 best teams in the country? Absolutely not. Did they earn a college football playoff appearance? Well, based on their Big Ten schedule and what was handed them, yes, they did. They won 8 of 9 in the Big Ten. They could not control that schedule. However, I do blame Indiana for putting together a high school level schedule with the likes of Western Illinois, Charlotte, and FIU. They should have scheduled better, and had they been left out of the college football playoff by the committee, I would have had no issues and would have shed no tears for Curt Cignetti and Indiana because they took a loser's mentality to their scheduling. I know Cignetti had nothing to do with that. Their athletic director and their athletic administration schedules the football schedules years in advance, and people have made the claim, well, you don't know how good a team's going to be that you schedule 5-10 years in advance. They could have scheduled this 5 years ago, 75 years ago, 700 years ago, and you know that Charlotte, Western Illinois, and FIU will always suck. Loser's mentality there by the Indiana football program in scheduling those games in 2024, and guess what? A similar non-conference schedule in 2025. Curt Cignetti, you did a remarkable job, but it did not end well. Not just on the field in being dominated by Notre Dame, but in your closing remarks, both before that butt kicking and after the butt kicking. Purdue sucks. You know what? Michigan and Ohio State suck. That's what Curt Cignetti felt he needed to do in taking this Indiana job. And he might be right. Had he taken a blue blood job, maybe his demeanor, his approach would have been a little bit different. Maybe he felt like this is the kind of swag he needed to bring to Indiana football. And you know what? It worked. But the end result and the final version of Curt Cignetti and the final act was just not pretty. Not a good close, Curt Cignetti, but overall, a remarkable job. 11-2 and a college football playoff appearance. Comments, questions down below. We'd love to hear from you right here at the Voice of College Football.